Hi everyone, welcome back to the White Collar Engineer. Today in this video we are going to explore the world of human resources or HR as an MBA domain. And if you are someone who is an HR enthusiast, or if you are preparing for your MBA interviews and human resources is your favorite MBA specialization, then this video is for you. Please stay till the end. In this video we will learn a lot about HR as a specialization. We will learn a lot of concepts and theories along with some important terminologies in HR. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So before we deep dive into the world of HR, let me first tell you what is the bookish definition of human resources, right? So human resources or HR is the business function which deals with a strategic approach to manage an organization's workforce to achieve its objectives effectively and efficiently, right? So why am I telling HR as a business function? Because many a times we get confused between HR and OB, which is organizational behavior, right? So from now onwards we have to be very careful about the difference between HR and OB. HR is a business function, and the academic discipline or the academic study which deals with all this human resources stuff is organizational behavior or OB, right? Now let me tell you about the different departments or different functions of HR. Number one being talent acquisition, the department which is involved mainly in hiring. The second one is learning and development. So for example, talent acquisition वालों ने hire तो कर लिया, but what if the employer turns out to have some skills gap, right? तो the learning and development वालों के काम यही रहेगा कि they identify that particular skills gap in employees and they suggest the employees to pursue some sort of a certification course or attend some sort of workshops, etc. to enhance their skills and make them a suitable fit for the organization, right? Performance management is the department which deals with employees' performance. There is a department called industrial relations in case of an FMCG company, or employee relations in case of non-FMCG company as well. So if you are into the industrial relations department, you might need to travel to clients' locations, you might need to travel to project sites, and then you need to figure out what is wrong with the employees, what are the problems being faced by them on a daily basis, and you need to provide solutions to them, right? There is a department called diversity and inclusion also, and I guess their function is quite self-explanatory. There is a department called compensation and benefits, which deals with compensation of employees, their salaries, what all short-term benefits and long-term benefits to be given to the employees to increase the employee retentions, etc. There are two other departments called HR Analytics and Workforce Planning and HR Technology and Automation as well. These two departments majorly deal with data-driven decisions to enhance the HR activities. They deal with AI as well, and they are quite modern, right? So once you are done with your MBA in HR, majorly you will land into three category of job roles. The number one being HRBP, number two being an HR consultant, and third one being of corporate HR. So what is an HRBP? HRBP is basically the connecting link between the HR team and the employees. Say for example, you are an HRBP of a particular portfolio and one of your employees is facing a problem in talent acquisition, or say for example talent retention, or the employees working under him, under her are not that enough skilled. They lack some sort of a skill, or they are not acquainted with a particular tool. So your responsibility as an HRBP will be to make that particular employee connect to the learning and development vertical of your HR team and get that query resolved, right? Say one of your employees has not received his salary or not getting satisfactory compensation from the company, then your role as an HRBP will be to make that person connect with the compensation and benefits vertical of the HR team of your company, right? The next role is of an HR consultant. Normally an HR consultant travels to clients' locations to identify what all problems are being faced by the client, and their day-to-day responsibilities includes communicating those problems to the head office and get those problems resolved so that there is a seamless functioning of the company. There is there are good relations being maintained between the client and the organization, right? So this is majorly the task of a consultant. The third one being of a corporate HR. Corporate HR includes all those departments like talent acquisition, learning and development, compensation, benefits, etc. Now let me read out some of the important HR terminologies which might be asked to you in your HR interviews, right? So the number one being employer branding. Employer branding is nothing but the reputation and image of a company as an employer, which impacts talent attraction and talent retention. Like if your company is a well-known brand, employees will get attracted and employees will be more than happy to work with your company, right? On the other hand, if you have a bad reputation in the industry, then employees will not be retained, employees will not be enthusiastic enough to work with you or your organization. There is another term called psychological safety. So the psychological safety is the extent to which employees feel comfortable expressing ideas and concerns without fear of negative consequences. So as an HR person, you need to ensure that the psychological safety in your organization is maximum, right? There is another thing called talent pipeline, which is nothing but a pool of qualified candidates prepared to fill future positions within an organization. There is one more terminology called succession planning, which is nothing but a strategic process to identify and develop potential future leaders. HRBP is something which I have already explained in one of the previous slides, right? There is another thing called compensation benchmarking, which is nothing but a process of comparing an organization's pay structure with the industry standards. There is another factor called employee net promoter score, which is nothing but ENPS. And ENPS is a metric that measures employee satisfaction and likelihood to recommend the company as a great place to work. Like if your company has a greater value of ENPS, then your company will be ahead in the race to become a great place to work, right? There is another thing called quiet quitting, which is nothing but a trend where employees disengage from extra work beyond their core responsibilities while maintaining minimum performance. Like they just come to the office for getting bare minimum amount of work done and earning their salary. That's it. There is one more thing called total rewards strategy, which is a holistic approach to employee compensation, including salary, benefits, recognition, and career development opportunities. There is another thing called attrition and retention. Attrition is nothing but employees leaving an organization, while retention means employees not leaving the organization and getting retained by the company, right? Okay, so this is the most important slide in the context of MBA interviews, and if you are someone who is preparing for your GDPI, you can't really afford to miss this particular slide. So the first question which you might be asked in your MBA interviews once you express your interest in HR domain is, why do you want to pursue HR as a career, right? So in this question, I recommend you to give any real life example. So you might have done a lot of people's management in your school, or maybe in your college, or maybe in your office, right? So you can anytime bring out those examples and relate to your choice of HR as an MBA domain. They might ask you, what HR challenges do businesses face in 2025? You can mention some of them as, there's a problem with managing the employees working in hybrid mode, or maybe working from remote locations, and AI is something which is not that well known to some of the employees yet in 2025, so you might frame your answers accordingly. There is one more very important and commonly asked question, which is, how would you handle a conflict between two employees, right? And the answer to this particular question lies in the art of listening and communicating. So you might frame your answer somewhere in the lines of listening to them properly and communicating a proper solution to them. There is another question which asks, if attrition is high in a department, what strategies would you use? How would you measure employee engagement effectively? So these are again situation based questions where you have to be very much ethical in your answer, right? There is another question which asks, an employee is underperforming despite multiple feedback sessions, what steps would you take, right? So just make sure that you don't straight away say, I'll fire him or I'll fire her. That really doesn't work, right? There will be another question which asks, your company is expanding globally, how would you manage cross-cultural HR challenges? And finally, how would you implement an effective DEI, which is diversity, equity and inclusion strategy, right? So these are some of the best expected questions for MBA interviews in the HR domain. You can always frame a good answer of these questions. Those answers will have to be very much personalized and not something which is copied from ChatGPT or DeepSeek. The best tip for answering these questions would be to relate the answer with any real life example of yours, right? Since we have already understood what is the concept of HR and we have also seen some of the frequently asked questions in HR, now we will understand some of the concepts, जिसका अगर reference हम अपने answers पे देते हैं, then it will create a very long lasting and good impression on the panelist. So we will go through the concepts one by one, and I'll try to relate those concepts with real life examples, or why these concepts are being used in HR. Right, so starting with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is nothing but a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step pyramid. In the bottom of the pyramid, we have our basic roti kapde makan wale needs. which includes air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. Without these needs, we will not be able to have our normal day-to-day life, right? Then once our physiological needs are sorted, we have safety needs, which includes personal security, employment, resources, health, property, etc. Then we need love and belonging, we need esteem, and finally we need some sort of a self-actualization. So you must be wondering, what is the need of studying Maslow's hierarchy of needs in HR? So basically, the HR managers study this hierarchy of needs to design employee benefits programs. They ensure holistic development of their employee according to this, right? Then we have something called McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X is nothing but the authoritarian management, and Theory Y is nothing but the participative management. In authoritarian management, employees require supervision, they lack motivation, they dislike their work, and they avoid responsibility. In participative management, employees are self-motivated, they seek responsibility, and they work best under trust and autonomy. So you as an employee will always prefer a participative management rather than an authoritarian management. But an HR manager has to ensure that there is a perfect balance between both type of management in any sort of an organization, so as to make that organization run smoothly, right? Then we have something called Herzberg's two-factor theory, where motivators and hygiene factors are those two factors of this particular theory. Motivators include examples like career growth, challenging work, responsibility, recognition, etc. And these are the factors which increases the job satisfaction, right? They actually do motivate us to go to our office every single day. But hygiene factors are something which are not capable of motivating us, but they prevent job dissatisfaction, right? And they are the basic bare minimum needs of an employee, like salary, job security, good working conditions, better company policies, etc. Right? So hygiene factors are something which are very much necessary, very much essential. If they are backed by good motivators, the office really becomes a great place to work, right? Then there is something called a Vroom's expectancy theory as well, which means more effort leads to better performance, and the better you perform, the more rewards you get. There is something called Adams equity theory as well, which states that employees compare their input and output with others. So if they feel they are under rewarded, they become demotivated. If they feel they are fairly rewarded, they stay engaged, and if they feel they are over rewarded, they may increase effort to justify their rewards. So as an HR manager, you have to make sure that the employees are fairly rewarded, right? Then we have Fiedler's contingency theory, which states that there is no single best leadership style, and the effectiveness depends on leader-member relations, task structure, and leader's power position. Leader's power position, as in, if you imagine you are working under a leader and you are aware that this particular leader is not having any sort of power in the organization, you will feel very demotivated to work under such leader, right? And on the other hand, if you know that the leader under which you are working is a very powerful person in that particular organization, you will automatically feel motivated, right? Then we have task structure. Task structure states how clearly jobs are defined. If your job is very transparently and clearly defined, you will have more motivation to work. If there is something which is very vague and you really don't know what to do, you will not be that much enthusiastic towards completion of that particular task. Then you have leader-member relations. If there is a fair amount of trust which exists between you and your leader, then you will be more motivated to work, right? On the other hand, if that's the opposite case, then you will not be motivated enough to work. As in, your leader doesn't trust you with a lot of responsibilities or critical stuff, then you will not be motivated enough to go to the office every single day. Next up, we have Hackman and Oldham's job characteristics model, which states that a job is motivating if it has 5 core dimensions: skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. I'll start with skill variety. Say for example, I am telling you to type 100 pages in 100 days, and in every single day you literally have to type 1 page. So every single day you are utilizing one skill of yours, which is typing. So if this is the case, you are not using a variety of skill set which you have, then you will obviously feel monotonous in your job, and such a job will not be liked by you, right? Then there is task identity, where an employee completes an entire process, not just a part. So for example, you are working in a coaching institute and you are taking care of the sales department, say, right? So you call an aspirant, you pitch in the ideas of your coaching institute, and you make him or you make her enroll into your coaching institute. Now you have zero track about how many classes that particular student is attending, how many mocks that particular student is giving, how much percentile did he or she scores, and things like that. So if you are not involved in an entire process and you are involved in just a part of it, you might feel demotivated and it might feel monotonous for you. On the other hand, if you are someone who has seen the entire process, the entire cycle of the work, then you will be more motivated for doing that particular job rather than taking part in just a part and not the entire process, right? Task significance. So if you know that your job has a meaningful impact, it will drive you more, right? On the other hand, if you realize that it is not having such an important impact on the overall psychology or the overall working procedure of the company, then you will not be motivated enough to do that job. Autonomy. Employee has control over the work. If your boss or your manager does a lot of micromanagement and you are being controlled in every single step, you will not be able to enjoy that work for a long period of time. Rather, if you have control over your own work, you will enjoy. Feedback. Employees receive clear performance evaluations. So if your performance evaluation is very transparent, you know what all things need to be improved, you know what all things need to be rectified before the next appraisal cycle, then it'll make you work more in that particular direction, rather than if you are having a very vague feedback and you work monotonously and stuff like that. So these are the 5 core dimensions which an HR manager has to ensure if he or she is into employee retention, right? Then we have something called Lewin's change management model, where we make changes in our organization in 3 stages. First stage is called unfreeze, where we prepare our employees for change. We make them aware, we remove the resistance, we remove the person who is creating resistance or who is resisting such changes to be implemented in the organization. Then we do the change, the actual change. We implement new policies, new technology, new structures, new reporting structure, new maybe the organizational reporting or the portfolio level reporting and stuff like that. Then we actually refreeze. Basically, we reinforce the new ways through policies, new culture and habits, right? So this is the entire change management model. Now we have Tuckman's stages of team development, and a very important slide for the budding entrepreneurs and the startup founders. So basically, whenever we open something of our own or open a new organization or a company, a team development has to go through 5 stages: forming, storming, norming, performing and adjourning, right? Forming means the stage where members meet, the roles are very unclear, very vague. Storming is something where the conflicts arise, there are challenges in collaboration. Norming is then things becoming normal, team cohesion develops, smoother workflows. Performing is the next stage where the team is productive and effective, and then once the project is over, the adjourning happens, the project is completed and the team disbands, right? So this is how it works. Last but not the least, we have Goleman's emotional intelligence theory. So you can take reference of this particular theory if you are asked a question like, say for example, what qualities a successful leader should have according to you. So this theory states that successful leaders have high emotional intelligence, and high emotional intelligence includes things like self-awareness, self-regulation, social skills, motivation, empathy, etc. So with this we come to an end of this video. If you have got any sort of queries with respect to this video or any queries with regards to HR as a specialization, please feel free to open the Google form which is given in the video's description. Ask your query over there, and I'll get your queries resolved from an HR expert who either have done his or her MBA in HR or have been working in HR field since a long time after his or her MBA. I'll soon invite an HR personal in my White Collar Engineer YouTube channel and get all your queries resolved from him or her, right? So please feel free to shoot your queries in the Google form, whose link will be in the video's description, right? So finally, thank you so much if you have watched the entire video. Please don't forget to drop a like and also subscribe to the White Collar Engineer for more such videos. Also, please let me know which specialization you would like me to touch upon in the next video, whether it's going to be marketing or finance or prodman or consulting or anything. Just let me know in the comments and I'll be making a video on that particular specialization shortly. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day.